You know, there comes a moment in every one of our lives when we look around and wonder, why does it feel like my blessing is taking the long road to get here? You've been faithful, you've prayed, you've worked hard. You've given when you had little. You've poured into others even when your own cup was half empty. And still, it seems like the door you've been knocking on is stuck. Like the opportunity you're believing for is just out of reach. You start asking yourself if God forgot your name. But the truth is, sometimes your blessings aren't being denied. They're being delayed because something in your hands, your heart, or your mind is blocking what God is trying to deliver. See, blessings don't just show up because we want them. They arrive when we've made room for them. Sometimes God wants to pour out favor, but he looks and sees that our hands are full of what should have been released a long time ago. And you can't receive new when you're still holding on to old. You can't step into the next chapter if you're still rereading the last one, trying to make sense of every line. So today, I want to invite you to make space, to unclog the pipe, to get out of your own way. Because there are things you've been praying for that are already yours, but God is waiting for you to let go of what's been blocking the flow. Some of us are carrying around emotional luggage like it's designer. We hold on to old pain, old stories, old labels, not realizing they're not part of the blessing we're asking for. You can't pray for peace and hold on to resentment. You can't ask for a new season and keep entertaining the same chaos. I know letting go isn't easy. I know it's hard to release what wants to find you, even if it's hurting you now. But here's what I know for sure. Every time you let go of what no longer serves your growth, you tell the universe, I'm ready for something greater. You tell God, I trust what's ahead more than what's behind. That's when the shift begins. The first thing that blocks your blessing is unforgiveness. Let me tell you, that one is heavy. Unforgiveness hides deep in the corners of our hearts. It disguises itself as pride, as strength, as protection. You say, I'm fine, but deep down, you're not. Someone hurt you. Someone betrayed your trust. Someone broke a promise they had no business making. And instead of healing, you built walls. You said, never again. And I get it. You were just trying to protect yourself from more pain. But while you were building those walls, you also blocked your blessings from coming in. Forgiveness isn't about saying what they did was okay. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of it. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve peace. Every time you replay what they did, you give them power over your today. Every time you say, I'll never trust again, you chain yourself to that moment, and your blessing can't grow in bitterness. When you forgive, you make room for joy. When you release, you open the flow of abundance. Some of you have blessings with your name on them, but God is saying, you're still holding on to that hurt. How can I hand you this new thing if your arms are full of old pain? Let it go. You'll be shocked by how quickly new doors swing open once you stop gripping the handle of a door that's already closed. The second thing blocking your blessing is fear. Fear is sneaky. It shows up wearing reason's clothes. It whispers, be careful. What if you fail? What if you look foolish? What if they laugh? It convinces you to stay small, to play safe, to hide behind comfort zones while your dreams die in silence. But let me ask you something. How many blessings have you missed because you were afraid to move? How many divine opportunities passed you by because you said, maybe next time? Fear doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. And your blessing can't find you if you refuse to move. You weren't created to live in the shadow of your potential. You were created to stand in the light of your purpose. That means sometimes you'll have to walk even when you can't see the full path. That means you'll have to say yes while your knees are shaking. You'll have to step out before you feel ready. Because faith isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. When you let fear drive, your blessing has to wait in the back seat. But when you take back the wheel, when you say, God, I'm scared, but I'm willing, that's when the magic happens. That's when doors open that logic can't explain. That's when favor finds you in places you never expected. The third thing blocking your blessing is comparison. Oh, this one right here has stolen more joy, more confidence, and more potential than any other. You scroll through social media and see everyone else's highlight reel, their promotions, their relationships, their perfect vacations, and you start believing the lie that you're behind. You forget that what you're seeing is a filtered moment, not the full story. You forget that your journey is customized for your growth, not for anyone else's applause, and yet you start questioning your pace, your path, your purpose. You start watering someone else's garden while your own begins to wither. But listen, you cannot receive your blessing while wishing you had someone else's. You can't say, God, I trust your plan, and then secretly envy the way he's blessing others. What's meant for you will never pass you by. But when you keep looking sideways, you lose sight of what's right in front of you. The miracle is already moving towards you. But if you're too busy staring at someone else's life, you'll miss it. Your job is not to compete. Your job is to align, to stay faithful in your own lane, to show up fully in your assignment. Because when you do that, blessings chase you down. The same God who provided for them hasn't forgotten you. He's preparing something specific, something sacred, something shaped exactly for your life. But he can't deliver it until you stop doubting the timing. The fourth thing blocking your blessing is negative self-talk. Oh, the things we say to ourselves when no one's listening. The words that never leave our lips but live rent free in our minds. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I'm not smart enough, not strong enough, not deserving. You rehearse your limitations like they're lyrics to your favorite song. And those words, those quiet whispers, they shape your reality. You can't manifest abundance from a mindset of lack. You can't call in blessings with a tongue that curses your own name. You've got to start speaking life over yourself. You've got to look in the mirror and say, I am chosen, I am worthy, I am equipped, I am enough. You've got to rewire that inner dialogue so that when doubt knocks, faith answers. Every blessing begins as a thought. Every miracle is birthed through belief. So if your mind is filled with negativity, there's no fertile ground for blessings to take root. God can hand you the promise, but if your mindset rejects it, you'll never hold it. You have to match your language with your vision. Stop talking yourself out of what you prayed for. Start affirming the person you're becoming. You can't speak defeat and expect victory to show up at your door. And finally, the fifth thing blocking your blessing is attachment to the wrong people. This one stings because some of the people we love the most are the ones we have to release. Some relationships feel comfortable, but they're costing you peace. Some friendships are familiar, but they're draining your purpose. Some partnerships were only meant for a season, yet you're trying to make them permanent. And God is saying, I can't elevate you while you're still tied to people who aren't aligned with your destiny. Sometimes blessings are waiting on the other side of a goodbye. And that's hard because we think loyalty means staying even when we're breaking. We think love means tolerating toxicity. But listen, you can love someone and still choose peace. You can forgive someone and still create distance. When God is trying to promote you, he will always prune your circle, not because he's cruel, but because he's clearing space. Everyone can't go where you're going. Everyone won't understand your calling. Some people are meant to be part of your history, not your destiny. When you release what's draining you, you make room for what's designed to fill you. You'll be amazed at how quickly your life starts moving again when you stop dragging dead weight up the mountain. Letting go isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's trusting that God knows what and who you need in your next season. When you let go of the wrong people, the right ones can find you. When you release what's expired, new blessings have permission to enter. But as long as you keep clinging to what's comfortable, you'll stay stuck in a place God already left. growth requires space. And space requires release. That's how blessings flow, through surrender. Now, I know it's not easy to let go. I know the mind wants to hold on to what feels familiar, but the truth is, sometimes what's familiar is the very thing blocking what's divine. When you say, I'm ready, God doesn't just test your words. He tests your willingness to release. Can you let go of that old story you keep telling yourself? Can you let go of the need to control every outcome? Can you let go of the people who drain your light? Because until you do, you're telling God, I trust my pain more than your promise. And that's not faith. That's this fear disguised as wisdom. Faith says, I don't know how, but I trust you. Faith says, even if I lose something, I know you'll replace it with something better. Faith says, I'm done trying to fix what you've already told me to release. That's when blessings move fast. That's when the phone call comes. That's when the door opens. That's when the peace that passes understanding fills your heart. Because God doesn't bless clutter. He blesses clarity. He blesses readiness. He blesses open hands. So today, I want you to imagine what would happen if you truly let go. If you woke up tomorrow and said, I'm done carrying what's not mine. What if you stopped replaying that moment from 5 years ago? What if you stopped trying to prove your worth to people who can't even see it? What if you stopped holding back your light because it made others uncomfortable? You'd make room. You'd create flow. You'd finally stand in alignment with everything that's been waiting for you. Your blessings aren't lost. They're waiting on you to match their frequency. They're waiting on you to clean out the spiritual clutter. Every time you release, you rise. Every time you forgive, you free your future. Every time you choose faith over fear, you shift timelines. That's how powerful your surrender is. You don't chase blessings, you align with them. And alignment happens when your heart, your words, your relationships, and your faith all agree that you are ready. There's a version of you that's been trying to emerge. She's lighter. He's freer. They're more confident, more grounded, more connected to purpose. But that version can't come alive until you let go of the things weighing you down. You can't step into destiny carrying yesterday's debris. It's time to clean house spiritually, emotionally, mentally, because blessings flow where there's room to grow. So right here, right now, I want you to whisper a quiet yes, a yes to releasing what's heavy, a yes to forgiving what hurts you, a yes to trusting what's ahead. Because the moment you say yes, the moment you let go, something begins to shift in the unseen. Doors start unlocking. Favor starts finding you. Resources start aligning. People start showing up who were meant to walk beside you. And you'll look back and realize the blessing wasn't waiting on God. It was waiting on you to make space. You've carried enough. You've proven enough. You've cried enough. Now it's time to open your heart and say, God, I'm ready. Because when you finally release what's been blocking your blessing, you won't have to chase what's meant for you. It will chase you. It will overtake you. It will surprise you. All because you dared to let go and trust what God can do with empty hands. Every release is an invitation for God to do something new in you. When you finally decide to stop fighting what's already finished, when you choose to unclench your fists and open your hands, that's when heaven takes notice. We live in a world that teaches us to hold on, to control, to manage, to plan every detail. But the truth is, the moment you surrender, you make room for the miraculous. You see, there are blessings that can't be born in your comfort zone. There are opportunities that will never find you while you're holding on to the version of yourself that was only built to survive. Sometimes God can't do something new in you because you're still busy defending who you used to be. You're still identifying with old pain, old habits, old patterns. But every release is an act of faith that says, I trust you more than my past. fast. It's an invitation that tells heaven, I'm ready to be molded, reshaped, renewed, reborn. Release isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's that quiet moment when you stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand your vision. Sometimes it's when you stop begging for closure from situations that were never meant to make sense. Sometimes it's when you stop replaying the what ifs and simply breathe into what's next. That's release. And every time you release, something unseen begins to shift. You may not feel it immediately, but in the spiritual realm, God begins rearranging, redirecting, realigning. He begins clearing the path, removing what doesn't fit the future He's preparing. You've been praying for change, but change requires space. God can't pour into a full vessel. He's waiting for you to empty what's expired, to clear out the residue of yesterday so that He can pour in fresh oil. There are some of you still holding on to things that are spiritually heavy, but emotionally familiar. You've gotten used to carrying that disappointment, used to that resentment, used to that story of why you can't move forward. But you can't become who you're meant to be while staying loyal to the pain that was only meant to teach you. Growth demands release, and release always invites renewal. God will never waste a letting go. Every time you lay something down, He's already preparing something greater to take its place. The problem is we keep trying to hold both, the old and the new, not realizing that faith is the bridge between what was and what will be. You can't grasp your next if you're still gripping your last. There's a divine rhythm to blessings. They move like waves. They flow to the open and pass by the closed. When you release, you open. You create space for new energy, new vision, new people, new purpose. You start vibrating at the frequency of faith instead of fear. That's when creativity rises. That's when clarity returns. That's when you start hearing God's voice again, clear as day, because the noise of what you've been clinging to finally quiets. When you let go of what's been draining you, you'll be amazed by how quickly joy begins to return. You'll laugh again without effort. You'll sleep again without worry. You'll start seeing the world with fresh eyes. Not through the lens of what hurt you, but through the lens of what healed you. Release isn't weakness. It's strength disguised as surrender. It takes courage to say, I'm done carrying this. It takes faith to walk away from something that once made you feel safe. But holding on to what's expired doesn't preserve your peace. It poisons it. You can't inhale the new while you're still exhaling regret. Every release signals heaven that you're ready for your next assignment. God begins sending divine connections, unexpected favor, resources that match the new season you've just entered. That's why some of your prayers haven't been answered yet. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're still entangled with what doesn't belong in your blessing. When you release, you unchain your future. Think about how nature moves. Trees let go of their leaves every autumn, not because they're dying, but because they're preparing for rebirth. The leaf doesn't resist the wind. It simply falls and trusts the process. That's what release looks like. It's trusting that God knows the season better than you do. It's understanding that not every loss is punishment. Some are pruning. Not every closed door is rejection. Some are redirection. You may not see the new thing yet, but it's already being formed. The soil is shifting. The roots are stretching. The rain is coming. All God needs from you is willingness. The willingness to trust what you can't yet see. You have to stop clinging to what used to work. The version of you that survived the storm is not the same one that will walk into the promise. You've outgrown certain environments, certain conversations, certain energies. But as long as you keep trying to shrink yourself to fit what you've already mastered, you block the upgrade that's trying to find you. When you release, you evolve. And when you evolve, blessings flow at a different frequency. You start attracting what matches your new vibration. People who once ignored you start seeing your light. Doors that were closed begin to creak open. Opportunities that were delayed begin to move quickly because your release signals readiness, and readiness is the magnet for miracles. Sometimes God will test your readiness with a release. He'll ask you to let go of something that feels essential, just to show you that your power never came from what you were holding. It came from who you are becoming. Maybe it's that job that no longer aligns with your spirit. Maybe it's that friendship that's turned one-sided. Maybe it's that identity you built around being the strong one for everyone else. Whatever it is, God will whisper, let it go, and your natural instinct will be to resist. But every time you resist release, you delay renewal. Every time you hold on out of fear, you stay stuck in a cycle of frustration. The faster you surrender, the faster your blessings flow. There's a reason peace follows release. Because peace isn't found in holding on. It's found in trusting the flow. God can't fill a life that's already cluttered. He can't pour fresh anointing into a vessel still full of bitterness, regret, or fear. Every release creates a vacuum, and heaven always fills a vacuum. That's why after every ending comes a beginning. After every goodbye, something new starts forming. It might not look like what you expected, but it will always be what you needed. That's the beauty of divine timing. You don't have to manipulate it. You just have to trust it. So ask yourself, what have you been gripping so tightly that your knuckles are turning white? What are you still fighting to fix that God already told you to free? Sometimes the biggest act of faith isn't pushing harder. It's loosening your grip. It's saying, I don't know what's next, but I trust that it's better, because release doesn't end something. It opens something. It's the threshold between who you were and who you're meant to be. And when you finally allow yourself to let go, you discover that the very thing you feared losing was the key to unlocking what's been waiting for you all along. Faith isn't waiting for proof. It's letting go before you see results. That's where real trust begins. We love the idea of faith when it feels easy, when it aligns with what we already understand, when it fits into our timeline. But the moment faith requires us to step without certainty, that's when our hearts start to tremble. That's when the questions get loud. That's when we start asking, what if it doesn't work out? But the truth is, faith doesn't promise comfort, it promises growth. Faith doesn't show you the full staircase, it just says, take the first step. When you choose to move without proof, you are saying to God, I trust that you are already working in the unseen. You are surrendering the need to control how the blessing comes and simply preparing yourself to receive it. Most of us say we have faith, but what we really have is conditional belief. We believe when the outcome looks familiar. We trust when we can trace the steps. We surrender as long as we still get to hold the steering wheel. But true faith is wild. It's raw. It's that quiet leap into uncertainty when everything logical in you is saying, wait. Faith isn't about ignoring reality. It's about believing there's a higher truth operating beyond what your eyes can see. When you walk by faith, you begin to understand that results don't define the process. Obedience does. God doesn't need you to have all the details. He just needs you to have the courage to act without them. Faith is that whisper in your spirit that tells you to keep going when everything external says stop. It's waking up to a closed door and still believing that there's another one waiting around the corner. It's starting the business even though the funds aren't all there yet. It's forgiving that person even when they haven't apologized. It's showing up with your whole heart when you don't know if anyone will notice. Because faith isn't about guarantees, it's about alignment. It's saying, even if I can't see the full picture, I know I'm part of a divine design. Every time you choose to trust before the evidence appears, you create a spiritual current that pulls blessings toward you. The unseen begins to rearrange itself in your favor because heaven always responds to faith. Letting go before you see results means releasing your timeline. It means giving up the illusion that you know how, and when things should unfold, it means saying, God, I'm done trying to force it. I'm done trying to predict it. I'm just going to trust that your timing is better than my understanding. That's not easy. We like control. We like certainty. We like to peek at the blueprint before we start building, but faith says, pick up the hammer and start anyway. It says, you don't need to see the end to begin. And when you start moving with that kind of trust, you stop living as if the world owes you proof. You start living as if everything is already working in your favor. Faith stretches you. It pushes you beyond comfort zones and into places where your only option is to lean on something greater than yourself. That's where character is built. That's where miracles are born, because miracles aren't born in safety. They're born in surrender. They happen in the space between your last ounce of control and your first step of trust. When you finally stop demanding proof, you open yourself to divine possibility. You allow the unknown to become sacred instead of scary. You begin to see delays as direction, disappointments as protection, and detour as divine setups. That's the beauty of faith. It transforms confusion into clarity, fear into courage, and waiting into preparation. There's a certain peace that comes when you finally let go. You stop wrestling with outcomes. You stop analyzing what you can't understand. You stop trying to convince yourself that everything has to make sense. Faith doesn't need to make sense. It needs to make movement. Sometimes you'll have to take steps that feel foolish to others. You'll have to make decisions that no one else supports. You'll have to plant seeds in barren ground because your spirit knows what your eyes can't yet see. And that's okay, because faith was never meant to be a group project. It's a personal covenant between you and God, a sacred agreement that says, I'll keep showing up even when nothing seems to be happening. The truth is, faith often looks like stillness before it looks like success. You might not see the fruit yet, but the roots are growing. The foundation is being set. God is working behind the curtain, orchestrating what you prayed for. Just because it hasn't manifested doesn't mean it's not in motion. The hardest part of faith is waiting without losing heart, believing without evidence, walking without sight. But when you get that part right, when you stay steady even in silence, something powerful shifts inside you. You begin to live from a place of trust rather than tension. You stop begging for signs and start living like the sign. You can't let proof dictate your pace. You can't say, I'll move when I see results, because results only come after movement. The harvest only comes after the planting. The miracle only comes after the surrender. If you're waiting for perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. Faith is about taking imperfect steps toward a perfect promise. It's about moving before the evidence, trusting before the clarity, loving before the guarantee. The moment you do that, your energy changes. Your prayers shift from desperation to declaration. You stop asking, will it happen? And start saying, it's already done. When you let go before seeing results, you teach your soul the language of trust. You remind yourself that you're not in charge of the how. You're responsible for the yes. The moment you say yes, God handles the details. He aligns the timing, the resources, the people, the opportunities, but he can't move while you're clinging to doubt. Faith and control can't share the same space. One has to go, and every time you release control, you invite divine flow. You step out of striving and into surrender. That's where the supernatural happens. Not in your effort, but in your release. Faith requires vulnerability. It asks you to risk your heart, to risk your ego, to risk your comfort for something greater. It asks you to trust that even if it doesn't go the way you expect, it will go the way it's meant to. It's saying, even if I fall, I'll fall forward. It's believing that even in loss, there's purpose. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains, not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet, steady, unshakable kind that says, I don't see it yet, but I still believe, because faith isn't built in the moments of clarity. It's built in the moments of confusion. When you choose to believe anyway, faith is what separates those who wait for life to happen from those who partner with God to create it. It's the bridge between your prayer and its manifestation. Every step you take in faith is a declaration that you trust the process more than the proof. You stop needing signs and start being one. And when you reach that point, your energy becomes magnetic. Opportunities find you. Blessings chase you, not because you force them, but because you flowed with divine timing. That's what happens when you let go before you see results. Heaven starts to move on your behalf. And the proof you were waiting for begins to show up, not because you demanded it, but because you believed without needing it.